Is it possible to communicate with the dead? Do you believe that there are certain individuals who can channel souls from the spirit world and mysterious beings from other realms? Is heaven and earth separated by a great and forbidding divide? Or is there such a thing as the communion of saints? We're going to delve into all these questions in this episode of The Spirit Side. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to The Spirit Side. I'm Paul James Caden, and today on the show we are going to continue with our esoteric week, as I'm calling it. And today we are going to discuss the truth about mediumship and channeling. Now, there's a pretty big divide in between certain people who believe it's possible to talk to the spirits of the dead, channel spirits, channel angels, even UFOs and Jesus himself. There's no lack of people who believe they can channel or bring through wisdom from these beings, and some in a trance state where they claim that the spirit takes over their body and speaks through them. And then there is what is called basically evidential mediumship, and that is when the person is in a completely awake state of mind, but they get impressions and thoughts and words and visions, pictures in the mind, and they relay these thoughts and intuitions and pictures to the person they're doing a mediumship reading for, and therefore the information comes through. But is there any truth to this? Is it dangerous to do? Should people try to communicate with the dead? Should people allow another spirit to take over their consciousness and speak through them? And does this phenomenon even happen? Or is it something psychological that the individual believes is happening, but it's not based in spiritual reality? These are big questions, and as I said, there's a lot of different opinions on every side of the fence, whether this is right, whether this is wrong, whether it can actually be done. Is it all chicanery and charlatanism? What's the deal with mediumship and spirit channels? Now, this is a tricky subject, and I can only give you my opinion and my findings on such topics. And I think first and foremost, I would have to say that for me, I've never believed, and for those of you who know my backstory, I had very spiritual thoughts even as a little kid, thoughts that were perhaps beyond things that I should have been thinking about. I don't know too many other children that were, 3, 4, 5 years old and, thinking about these rather complex ideas, especially when my family wasn't religious. But I've always had this thought and this knowing and this belief within me personally that when a person dies, they they don't drift off into some other faraway realm and forget all about life on earth, their loved ones. I've always felt and believed that I guess you could say it's close to the idea of the communion of saints. our loved ones continue to pray for us on earth, pray for different things in the world. Um, Maybe even by God's leave and God's permission, there may be times when spirits from the other side are permitted to enter our lives and give us a message for one reason or another. And, there are stories that are many, and I've known quite a few people that said they had a loved one, pass away, and they went to bed, the night of the funeral or a couple nights afterwards, and suddenly there was grandma standing at the foot of their bed, and there was this glow throughout the room, and grandma just simply looked at them and smiled or told them, "I'm okay," or "You're going to be okay," and then simply vanished. There have been many stories where someone's life was in danger and suddenly they saw a deceased relative, a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, sometimes what they described as an angel or a complete stranger that helped them in a time of need, in a time when their life was being threatened somehow, and they were led to safety. They were given directions to avoid trouble, or, whatever the case might be. We also have many people that say they've had dreams about deceased loved ones that gave very pertinent information about something that was happening in the person who was still alive, in their life. Now, I've had that happen for my own personal account, and I'm not someone who goes off into flights of fancy. I mean, I'm sure there were parts of my life where spiritually I was a little more given into flights of fancy than I am now. But as I've gotten older, I've examined a lot of the experiences that I've had and things that I've seen, and the ones that I could discount and say, I really don't know. It happened too fast. I thought I saw, it looked like, but I'm not really sure, and those can be taken off the table, for me anyway, as authentic spiritual encounters. Yet there are other ones that, uh, I encountered dead on right in front of me, unexpected, out of nowhere. Sometimes there might have been another person with me or even an animal that reacted to the presence of the spirit. So the whole notion that our loved ones go to heaven and that's it. They don't think about us anymore. They don't um, know what's happening in their lives, nor do they care. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. If we're thinking about the idea that God is love, then that love is something that connects all of us for all of time and eternity. And I think that, I don't think it's like some people believe, my mother dies and now she's my guardian angel and she's always with me. You see people ask that a lot when it comes to mediumship. They'll ask things, was my mother always with me? Is my father always with me? Is my brother around? Is he watching over me in my life? And I believe they are to an extent, but I don't think, the spirits of the deceased are hanging around the earth plane watching over us all the time. They may check in, they may have a knowing being in spirit closer to God, things about that realm that we don't know. They may have a knowing of certain things that are happening in our lives, if we're in trouble, if we're doing okay. But I feel that spirits in the spirit world have their own business to attend. I mean, this is a whole new realm of learning and evolving and growing. And whatever it is that spirits do. There's many different theories, um, but nobody could really say 100% for sure. But I don't think it's just, hanging out on clouds playing harps or coming back to Earth and watching over our loved ones until we die, and then we come back and watch over, our loved ones, and, it becomes this vicious cycle. I don't think that's what happens. And I don't think that's something that God would allow to happen or have, the spirits of the dead appearing to us every time, we turn around. You see a lot of these mediums, and I've seen some very good ones. And I've known some people that were good, honest people, and they could just tune in. I myself, again, if you know my past, I've always been interested in spiritualism and spiritism. There's more to those religions and philosophies than most people understand. And, most Christian people give them the cursory look and say, oh, that's the occult. Oh, that's from the devil. Oh, that's spiritism. Oh, that's spiritualism. But there's a whole lot of things that they do believe and they do teach that I'm not going to get into here that make a lot of sense. And if those people that I know that are spiritualists and interested in the spiritist faith. Now, they're two different things, spiritualism and spiritism. If those people are involved in the occult and talking to satanic spirits, uh, boy, they're the best Christians I've ever seen. I mean, you want to talk about a group of people that really believe in helping others and, trying to help and heal others and continue in that ministry uh, of Jesus in this world. The Spiritist philosophy. If you see someone in trouble, if you see someone who needs help, help them. We're all brothers and sisters. We're all children of God. You help and you treat others with kindness and love. And these people are very legitimate in what they believe and how they act toward others. However, again, I've seen people that could call in some very interesting information. Um, I've gotten some information that I thought was a little strange, things I never heard before. One time I was just meditating, and, I don't generally sit around and, try to talk to the spirits, but, I have my interest. And there are times, that I've experimented with this. And one time I asked my mother to draw near, shortly after she passed, and how she was doing, if everything was okay, and everything that she that came through in that particular session. I came out of it and I said, well, you know, I kind of think I made that up because I never heard any of that stuff before. This, this just sounds like something that maybe my creative mind came up with because I never heard anything like this. And probably about 4 months later, I started looking into near-death experiences again. I periodically delve into that subject. I'm very interested in it. And here was all of these old and new NDE experiences where people were talking about these things that were coming to light that was told me in that session with my mother. I'll use air quotes to say my mother, but it was exact and things I've never heard before. So that's what one would call evidential mediumship. You're getting information from the spirit world, and then that information proves to be true. Now, it's not advisable to people to try to use the spirits to tell the future. That's venturing into territory that we shouldn't be doing. But suffice to say, is it possible that now and then we do make contact? We do connect with our loved ones. I think it is possible, and I think it is something that now and then God allows, or even allows. One of my beliefs about this, going way back, again, when I was quite young, is that maybe the spirit of my mother doesn't come through personally, but maybe in sincerely just wanting to know that information, saying a prayer, to God through Christ before you enter into any of that sort of thing, which spiritists and most spiritualists do recommend, because they are Christian spiritists and spiritualists. And that maybe, when we sincerely desire just to know, hey, is my mother okay? Is my father okay? Whoever, that maybe that information could be brought to us by an angel and just brought to our consciousness. Yes, they're okay. This is what's happening. This is where they are. They're happy. They're at peace. Very happy to see her mother, who passed away when she was very young. All of these different things. And then, little bits come out that seem kind of peculiar. And then later on down the road, you find out that this is a thing. You were given information that proved to be true. So I think it is possible. But the issue I have with mediumship, I've tried it and I've succeeded. I've tried it and I've failed. Failed a lot of times. Didn't get anything except me just sitting there waiting for something to happen. And now I'm more for the evidential mediumship, not the channeling where the spirit takes over your body. We're going to get into that in just a second. But mine is more just, the information that comes to me. And sometimes it's very fluid, like I'm sitting there, I'll close my eyes and it's like I'm having a conversation, like that time with my mother. I saw her face, I heard her voice. She talked very, very fluid. And it was a very interesting encounter. But then there were many, many other times where I got nothing. And I think that's the way it should be if we're going to believe in mediumship. Um, I don't think God is going to let the spirits pop in just because we want to talk to them. Oh, I want to talk to my uncle today. Oh, I want to talk to my grandmother today. Oh, I think I'll talk to my mother today. Oh, tomorrow we're going to talk to my aunt. I don't think this is like Ma Bell of the spirit world, where we just, put in the dime, dial up the number, and poof, there they are at our beck and call. I think if that happened, religion and spirituality would go backwards rather than forwards, and we would find vast numbers of people worshiping the dead like they did in olden times, worshiping the ancestors, getting into all kinds of crazy rituals and superstitions, and having to leave food out for the dead, or they're going to curse you, or whatever the case may be. All kind of crazy things that people believed about ghosts and spirits and the dead. And I think if spirits were appearing to us anytime we wanted them to, anytime they wanted to, just poof, there they are, practically running our lives. Oh, you're in trouble? Well, here I am, no problem. I think we would start to venerate and worship the spirits more than we do God, and that's not their place. If a spirit comes to a person by God's permission, that is a ministry of love, that is a ministry of mercy. But I think it would be much like the same thing as an angel. If somebody sees an angel or has some kind of angelic contact, this is a ministry of love. This is a ministry of mercy. That angel isn't always going to appear forever and ever, because then the person might start a cult or a fetish over the angel. And true worship belongs to God, not to, the spirits of the dead or to the angels or, anything of that nature. So I think there's a balance there. I think that ministry of love and mercy and compassion connects us all for all time and eternity. We don't fully know how it works, what the rules are on the other side. I guess we won't know till we get there. But we know that these people and these beings, like angels, do, occasionally appear in people's lives. And I think there's a reason for that. And I think we're all connected, and God sends us who and what is needed at the time when we need it. So again, I think the religious people that get too much on this thing, oh, it's all demons. Oh, I think that's a little too far off on the other side of the road. And we get into that kind of, evangelical fundamentalism. That's not doing anybody such, great religious wonders either. This gets into a lot of arrogance and, our religion's the right religion and, judging everybody. And, maybe those people could use, an angel or two in their life, because, I know spiritualists and spiritists who are much more kind, loving, helpful, accepting Christians, than some of the folks that are more fundamentalist. So I think there's a lesson we could be learned there. Being in contact with that love and that mercy of heaven, but it's not something that we should worship. It's not something that I think, like I said, we could just put in the dime, dial up the dead, and Shazam, there they are. I don't think it works that way, nor would God allow it to work that way. And I always reference, how Jesus said, "The things that I do, you shall do also, and even greater things than this." And Jesus spoke to, the spirits of Moses and Elijah on the Mount of Transfiguration. Some people will argue, well, Elijah never died. He was caught up in the chariot of fire. Well, this may be true, but we know that Moses died. He died before the ancient Israelites crossed into the promised land. So Moses was definitely deceased. Was Jesus sinning by talking to these, even Elijah being taken up in that whirlwind, taken up in that chariot of fire? He would now be a heavenly being. He was taken up into heaven. But yet there he was on that mountain talking to Jesus with Moses. So was Jesus sinning? Was Jesus doing something wrong in the eyes of God? What about all the times it said that angels came and ministered to him? So we do have different accounts where Jesus did interact with the spirit world. And we could say, well, he was the Son of God, he was special. But no, again, he said, "The things I do, you'll do also." That covers it all. Those things are written in the Gospels to show us the things he did, the healings, the prophecies, the interaction with the spirit world that he had at different times. Those are all things he did. You'll do the things that I did and greater things than this. But see, I think a lot of religious people pick and choose what those things should be according to their own doctrines and their own perceptions. And I think I had a little bit of a microphone glitch there. I'm sorry if I blurbed out for a minute, but anyhow, I do think, as I said, that there is a ministry of love and mercy, and that we're all connected in that love of God. As many Christian denominations and even the early Christians believed in the communion of saints, and the church militant, those of us who are still on the earth, and the church glorified those in heaven. And it was really before the inception of the Catholic Church when the early Christians would go to the grave sites of saints who were martyred, or considered to be very great in the faith, and they would go and they would pray, and they would ask for the prayers and the intercession and the help of these particular people. So this was a very early Christian practice. This was not something that was invented by the Catholic Church. So that communion of saints, all of us connected in heaven and earth, is something that was very early on in Christianity. And it's only with our modern ideas of, what the, unadulterated gospel and the word of God should be, that we've edited a lot of these things out. And I've always said for years, we've done a fantastic job of editing a lot of the sacredness out of our religion, out of our Christianity. And it's become, really nothing but this very sterile religion where, we just listen to the man at the pulpit, whether he's right, wrong, or indifferent. And, we're very wary of anything else heavenly or supernatural or spiritual, even gifts of the Spirit. Many label and say, oh, I was, this happened to me, but I was afraid it was the devil, so I just shut it down and I ran away. You hear that all the time. So we've done a wonderful job of scaring ourselves and editing the sacredness out of our Christianity, and that's a real shame, a real shame. Now, as far as this channeling business goes, I saved this for last, and there's not a whole lot I could say about it, except that I would say this. When it comes to, and this is what many would call trance mediumship or channeling, where the person goes into a trance and the spirit takes over their body and begins to speak through them. That's something, just from my personal viewpoint and belief, I don't think it's safe. I don't think it's wise. I don't think it's safe for anybody to allow a spirit to walk into their body, walk into their consciousness, and start speaking through them. This is more like spirit possession, rather than gaining information or conversing, with a righteous spirit. And I don't see any reason why an angel or my mother or my grandfather or my grandfather would need to take over my body in order to, especially when you're getting into these notions where people say that they're trance channeling their spirit guides, or they're going into a trance and they're channeling extraterrestrials, the space brothers. We don't know who these spirits are, where they're from. As it says, Satan himself could masquerade as an angel of light. So, inviting these strange spirits in to take over one's consciousness, I don't think would be a healthy thing to do. And that doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like a system to me that God would set up in a way for the living to communicate with the spirit world. We never saw Jesus going into some trance and, up on the Mount of Transfiguration, he didn't fall into a slumber and, start speaking in another voice saying, I am Moses speaking through Jesus. No, he didn't do that. These, Moses and Elijah appeared with him. There wasn't, any weird channeling or trances, that was going on. So I think that kind of thing can be very dangerous, and I wouldn't recommend it. And, in my years of research, looking into all these various things and phenomenon out there, you hear a lot about trance channeling that did go bad. Really spooky, creepy, uh, dark things would sometimes happen to people that engaged in this practice. Not to mention the ones who met with a very tragic and an untimely death, and some of them, at a fairly young age. So it seems like there's a certain foreboding, when it comes to that sort of thing. And I don't think it's safe. I don't think it's something that we should practice. And I think also the proof is in the pudding, because look at all the very strange doctrines and cults that have been started around uh, trance channelers and the supposed messages that came through them. And some of these people have very bizarre and even dangerous beliefs because of what, a spirit supposedly said through, the channel or the medium that this movement was founded upon, whatever the movement might be. So again, by their fruits you shall know them. There's a lot of weird movements, a lot of weird little religions based around this type of thing. And we also have to wonder, that it can't be ruled out. Some people think that uh, all channeling is a psychological phenomenon. So is the person falling into a non-reality? Are they uh, putting themselves in a self-hypnotic state and just babbling peculiar things through the subconscious mind that they may have, picked up, in their own spiritual quest? Some people say that, there's no such thing. Spirits do not take over people's bodies. I tend to think, since we have spirit possession and things of that nature, which some people scoff at and say, "Oh, that does." Well, there have been cases noted of spirit possession that you wouldn't want to be in the room, when that was taking place. It was just weird. It was just creepy as hell. Um, so I'm inclined to believe that uh, it is possible that things could step into a human's consciousness, but it's dangerous to open up for that to happen. But it's also a possibility that at least some of the people, or a lot of the people, um, this is just some kind of psychological thing that's going on. And either way, I don't think it's good information to trust or start a religion around or live our lives by, because it can get very, very peculiar. So there you have it, folks. That's what I believe, and kind of what my research has turned up over the years as far as mediumship and channeling and connection with the dead, connection with the spirit world. I hope this was an interesting conversation for you. I hope maybe you took something away from it. And as always, I appreciate you listening. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, stay connected to the light, and I'll talk to you next time here on the Spirit Side.